It's June 11th, 1955. The 24 Hours of Le Mans, one of the most prestigious and grueling endurance races in the world, is in full swing. Teams and drivers push their machines to the absolute limit, battling exhaustion, mechanical failures, and each other. But that day, the biggest threat wasn't on the track, it was about to come from the grandstands. Just 3 hours into the race, French driver Pierre, Levegh, behind the wheel of his Mercedes-Benz 300 SLR, finds himself trapped in a chaotic chain of events. Jaguar driver Mike Hawthorne makes a sudden move to pit, cutting off Austin Healey driver Lance Macklin. To avoid a collision, Macklin swerves, but in doing so, he pulls right into the path of Levegh's Mercedes. It happens in an instant. Levegh's car clips the back of Macklin's, launches into the air, and careens toward the grandstands. What happens next is horrifying. His car explodes into pieces, sending debris, including the engine and hood, flying into the packed crowd. The impact is devastating. Over 80 people lose their lives, and countless others are injured. For a moment, it felt like time stopped. Smoke filled the air, and the roar of engines was replaced by the sounds of chaos and panic. But the race unbelievably continued. Why? Some say it was to avoid clogging the exits and causing even more panic. Others argue it was a show of resilience, a refusal to let the tragedy overshadow the race. And here's the thing. Today, if something like that happened, the news would spread like wildfire and people would demand immediate action, causing the race to be shut down without question. But in 1955, things were different. Back then, there was criticism, but the show went on. The decision to continue wasn't without consequences. Mercedes-Benz was rocked by the disaster and pulled out of the race that day. They would later end their motorsports program altogether, only returning over 3 decades later in 1988. The repercussions didn't stop there. In Switzerland, the tragedy led to the banning on circuit racing. The ban lasted until 2007. France also took action, increasing the distance between spectators and the track, building safer barriers and making changes to the track layout. It was a turning point, a harsh reminder of the risks that come with pushing cars to their absolute limits. But there's another angle to this story, one of dedication and courage. Pierre Levegh knew the risks. He was a seasoned driver and he made the choice to strap into that car, knowing what could happen. Racing at this level isn't for the faint-hearted. It's a brutal sport where every second counts and every decision has consequences. Some argue that continuing the race was a tribute to Levegh, a way to honor the passion and risks drivers like him face. This disaster left an indelible mark on motorsports history. It changed the way races are organized, how tracks are designed, and the way safety is prioritized. And while it's painful to remember, it's a story that needs to be told. Because if we forget the lessons of the past, we run the risk of repeating them. Thanks for joining us today. Keep those engines revving, but remember, sometimes the most dangerous things on the track aren't the cars themselves, but the risks we can't always see. Please subscribe now.